There's a great old hymn in Eastern Orthodoxy that goes like this: O Holy Father Athanasius, like a pillar of orthodoxy, you refuted the heretical nonsense of Arius by insisting that the Father and the Son are equal in essence. Well, first I have to say, you gotta love any hymn that can incorporate the term heretical nonsense. That's just fun writing. But it wasn't always the case that Athanasius was called Most Holy Father. On this date, February 8th of the year 356, Athanasius was sent into exile for the third time, and there would be 4 more exiles to come. Church history remembers Athanasius for a number of reasons. He was one of the first to write a Christian biography, the life of St. Anthony of the Desert Fathers, an inspiration for monks to come. He was the first of the patriarchs to incorporate the use of the vernacular, Coptic Egyptian, alongside the Greek in his writings. He was one of the first to give us a solidified date for Easter. And he was the first to list the 27 books of the New Testament that we still use in the Protestant canon. And he was also the first to give us a very developed devotional and theology of the Incarnation. But what Athanasius is most remembered for was getting into a fight with a guy named Arius. Now, Arius taught a form of Christology that wasn't unpopular at the time. And what Arius said was that Christ, the Son, was a created being, that he was divine, but that he was created by God and possibly inferior to God and did not exist eternally. A little bit like what the Jehovah's Witnesses teach today. Well, Athanasius wasn't having any of it, and he spoke out quite forcefully and quite firmly, and he wrote an awful lot about this doctrine called Arianism. Well, at first, Athanasius took the day, and Arius was exiled. But then things changed, and Arius came into power, and Athanasius was exiled. And this went on for several years. And one of Athanasius' most famous things that he said is that the tradition, teaching, and faith proclaimed by the apostles must be guarded by the church fathers. Standing up for what we believe to be true is not an easy thing, especially when the truth we're standing up for is not popular. And this happens an awful lot throughout history. Even in the Bible, we can see that those who spoke up for truth were not always popular or loved. Remember Isaiah? We revere him today, but he had to hide in a hollow log from the king's soldiers, and when they found him, they sawed the log in two with Isaiah in it. And you remember Jeremiah, the time he spent in a cistern thrown there by the king? And of course Ezekiel, in obedience to God, did some things that caused him quite a bit of censure among the exiles of the people of Israel. And of course Daniel was thrown in a den of lions. Truth is not always popular, and standing up for it is not always easy, but it is necessary. One of my very favorite poems and hymns was written by a man named James Russell Lowell, who wrote before the Civil War. He was an abolitionist, and things weren't going the way of the abolitionists. Slavery was a popular thing in many areas of our country, and yet Mr. Lowell felt that it was wrong and that someone had to stand up for truth. He wrote this poem, which we sing in our hymnal in some of our churches, and I love these words. Though the cause of evil prospers, yet the truth alone is strong. Though truth's portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong, yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. There will be times when truth is the one on the scaffold, and wrong is the one on the throne. But Christians are people called to stand up for what is true. So today, on February 8th, I don't know what's going on in your life, what kind of truth you may stand up for. But know this, history will always show eventually what was truth and what was error. And today, Athanasius is a holy church father, and we revere men like Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel. So here's the deal. If you want to outlast the current culture, you got to stand up for what is eternal truth. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.